righty, everybody, and welcome to the channel again once more. Hi, how are you? If you see me on the video on the screen, thank you and welcome to coming back to the show. Those of you that are currently listening on Spotify and the other media platforms, thank you very much. Again, wanted to say today's date, number one, starting is September 12th, 2025. So thank you. Again, damn, man, I sound like a broken record by me constantly saying thanks, but I feel like it's much needed and warranted. So you're back. Shit. Well, welcome back, yo. Want to say a couple things. Just a big shout out to the most recent users, those people who have commented on stuff. I posted something on TikTok regarding some comments, and I kind of want to dive a little bit right into why I made those. So apparently the Rambo thing really triggered somebody, where they basically said, hey, I never knew that the bullets, did you really think the bullets that the Rambo was shooting and Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger were actually real? And how could you, and blah, 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 blah. And so it prompted me to say that. And also the other part was regarding the theater etiquette. Those who've seen the videos and the story from last week or from earlier, this shit, everything's married together, dude. Yeah, everything that happened last weekend, and the people and the use of their feet and not having the proper etiquette. Apparently, some people just still didn't understand the concept of common sense not to do that stuff. So that's what prompted the video. So if some of you are coming into this completely blind and not knowing exactly what those videos were about, that's what it was about. So with that being said, let's kind of go into a little bit of what went on this week. It's been a hell of a week for me personally, and for my family, and I don't mean to get too much into the weeds of this stuff, but we had to recently put somebody, pay our final respects and have them take on the next journey and move on. It's somebody who was really close to our family, and it impacted us a lot in our family. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to really enjoy the lady who passed, but she was absolutely wonderful, absolutely sweet. May God bless her wherever she is now, and her husband, Jose. They're just beautiful and wonderful people, and I just want to say that I'm glad I met them. I'm blessed for them to have been a part of my life. They showed my wife and I nothing but love, and they're just wonderful angels, and I love them to death. And I don't want to get too emotional or caught up in it, or be that vulnerable, but I feel that sometimes we meet people that come across our lives and they're a blessing to meet. And sometimes you don't realize how wonderful they are and how meaningful they can be and how much of an impact they made in your life until they're no longer here. So with that being said, and sorry to start the podcast so emotional, but it is something that hurt our family a lot, and I won't go too much into it, but everybody's suffering, including her children, obviously, who are adults now, but it still hurts, and grandkids. And yeah, so she was put to rest finally, and God bless her, and her legacy will live on. So with that being said, so that's been a heck of a week for us, but a little bit of a positive. The Niners, like I said, won. I know, what kind of fucking segue is that, dude? Well, yeah, I'm trying to change the beat. I understand I got emotional, but good gosh, people. The Niners won, a lot of injuries. Brock Purdy is out for the next 2 to 5 weeks. Those of you who are Niner fans listening to this, I know all of you feel my pain. The good thing is that Jake Moody's gone, y'all. Jake Moody got waived by the San Francisco 49ers. After the game, I think on Monday, he got waived by the Niners and got picked up by the Bears, surprisingly, to their practice squad. So I think he would have jeopardized the season for us, and I wish him the very best, nothing but success, but unfortunately it just didn't work out and didn't pan out. And so, yeah, we got a new guy, Mr. Eddie Pinedo. We'll see how that turns out, and hopefully with this week's game against the Saints, Brock Purdy being down, you have George Kittle being down, Trent Williams being banged up, you got Christian McCaffrey, with his calf, you never know, gosh forbid. But we're just crossing our fingers and hopefully that, we're able to weather the storm these next 4 or 5 weeks and we're back to normal and back to our normal strength. So let's just hope for that. What else went on this week? Well, this week has been for me personally, like I said, apart from the emotional stuff, it's been a lot of learning for me in particular in regards to my kids. So I guess I'll share one of the stories today. Um, and it's going to prompt a little bit into the styles that we're going to be talking about. So I've been Googling, gosh, you can tell this was raw and uncut, right? I've been kind of Googling and doing a little bit of research in the top parenting styles for 2025 and seeing what's popular and what's trending. And to be honest, I don't know. It was just ain't for me and for my wife and I. So my daughter typically, when she has these moments where her emotions are a little bit kind of running away, we tend to kind of navigate those and just kind of weather it, try to take her out of it, try to talk her through it. And unfortunately, none of that stuff works. And when she's definitely in her feelings and her emotions, you kind of just have to cross your fingers and hope you don't catch strays or catch wind of it. So for those parents that are dealing with teenagers that are currently kind of going through that, all I can say is as a parent, and I'm talking to you in particular who's watching this video and listening to this, we feel your pain. Sometimes it feels like no matter how much you talk to these kids or how much sense you're trying to make, I feel that they oftentimes just ignore and just tune it out because they might not basically think that the information that who it's coming from, it's got enough clout or validity for them to actually listen and grasp it. And we can sit there and try to force them to listen, force them to understand what we're talking about and making sure that they understand where they're wrong. It just doesn't work out. And then I sit back and I think about the way that we were when we were growing up and the way we were when we were kids. Those of us who were fortunate to have two parents who really engaged with us and really took the time to really sit down with us and really talk with us. Unfortunately, I think in our generation, that's very difficult to find because of our parents. They were very hardworking. Some of them, they were co-parenting. Some of them were parents that were working 2 jobs, 2 shifts because they were just trying to make ends meet. So sometimes you have to raise yourself. And so I feel that disconnect between the gaps between both generations is pretty blatantly obvious. And oftentimes I talk to people that I meet, even some of my clients that are a little bit on the older crowd, which is not too much for me either, by the way. Shit, I'm almost there. I'm not too far off. But even they say that they were blessed to have, for example, when they came home, their mom was home. She was a stay-at-home mom. And that they knew that they had somebody to talk to when they came home. There was a nice home-cooked meal. There wasn't that much stress of paying the bills when they were growing up. And there was way more innocence in the sense that, you parented as a community. Because sometimes if somebody saw you doing stuff that was inappropriate and you were a neighbor and you saw your neighbor's child kind of acting a fool, you would chime in and jump in and do that. So it was a community raising kids. And I don't see that anymore. And now it's a more of like, we take videos and we take pictures and we're like, oh shit, whose kid is that? And then we point fingers and we mock and we judge without realizing that maybe that parent doesn't have the ability or the support system that maybe you do. And back to my daughter is just, she pushes boundaries, pushes buttons. I mean, all kids do. And what do? How do you navigate it? So I was looking online and doing, some books about parenting in 2025, and there seems to be some pretty popular styles that are currently trending. Number one is authoritative parenting, which balances high expectations with emotional support, fostering independence and self-discipline. There is the mindful parenting, which focuses on being present and aware, promoting emotional intelligence and strong parent-child connection. Positive parenting emphasizes encouragement and positive reinforcement over punishment, nurturing a child's self-esteem. Attachment parenting, which prioritizes strong emotional bonds through practices like co-sleeping and responsive feeding. Yeah, These are legit styles. And then there's free range parenting. Sounds funny as hell. Encourages independence and self-reliance by allowing children to explore and take risks in safe environments. And then there's tech savvy parenting, which integrates technology and parenting, teaching child responsible digital citizenship and online safety. So, which one are you? I know it's a lot of big words, but authoritative parenting for me balances high expectations with emotional support, fostering independence and self-discipline. That for me kind of falls in line of what we were raised as. There was a very high expectation that you had to make sure that you had good grades because you wanted to go to college, you wanted to break the norm, you wanted to break the cycle, you wanted to stand out. So the pressure was there. And sometimes I have to catch myself because I think that oftentimes I set up my children to fail because I set up my expectations so high. And if you're doing the same thing, I challenge you to really look within yourself and see if what you're asking is realistic and if it's something that you would have done yourself when you were that age with their limitations. Now, because again, we're not all geniuses. We're not all Albert Einstein. We're not emotionally intelligent for us to demand that of our kids. So we have to make sure that we look within and we accept our own limitations of stuff that we ourselves are not able to do. I mean, I cannot expect my kid, and I'll use this as an example, I cannot expect my children to have a good relationship with their partner if I'm constantly yelling at my own, or if I'm constantly screaming at my baby daddy, or my baby mama in some scenarios, or my partner. Because they're watching that. Like I mentioned in previous videos, you have eyes on you 24/7, both good and bad. And I say that because now that I'm doing podcasting and I'm doing social media and all that stuff and I'm on TikTok, etc., I have to be wary of that, of the videos that I post, the comments that I share with them, and some of that stuff because they're analyzing in their own minds of what's acceptable behavior via social media platforms. So you like my videos? Great. That means that the message that I'm saying to you is relaying and translating well for all of you to engage with me. However, if I get a lot of trolls and I get a lot of negative feedback, they're going to be like, well, shit, you know, my dad's comments obviously are not getting any likes, so people might not necessarily agree with them. And that's not necessarily true. That is something that we have to be mindful with these kids, that you're not going to please everybody, and that's okay. Some kids are so focused and so enamored with trying to appease us and make us happy that they completely ignore their own social independence and how they want to be. So if you're going to take the authoritative parenting style, you do have to balance those expectations. And not only with them, but also with yourself. Don't expect them to do something that you yourself aren't doing. Don't expect them to clean up after themselves that you're not doing it yourself. Because they will throw that shit in your face. Don't expect them to have a good relationship with whoop-de-whoop when you don't have a relationship of your own. And if you don't think they're not listening, they are. And if you're co-parenting, this is where it gets tricky. If you're co-parenting and you're setting a good expectation of how you or how they are perceiving your partner or your ex, everything that comes out of here, they're listening with this. If you spit venom about that individual, they will retain that information and compute in their mind and analyze of like, shit, is my mom or my dad a jerk? You're just going to create more confusion. And these kids are not emotionally adept to distinguish when there's drama between parents and when there's not. So if you are a parent, just in your co-parenting, as much as you want to cuss out your other partner because they're either not being part of the picture and choosing not want to be a part of the picture, be mindful of what you say and be very tactful in how you express yourself about that individual 24/7. That can go via media platforms. That could be the way you speak about that person, even when you're out and about with your friends, because trust me, they are listening. They might be on their laptops. You think they're tuning you out, but they're listening to key words like the name of their dad, the name of their mom. So be wary of that because you're wearing down these innocent human beings and teenagers that are going to be adults and navigate through life. And we are setting that expectation of how they should handle other people. And if we are not wary of that, then what are we doing? What are we building? We can't get mad if we have a bunch of kids doing some stupid shit, like breaking into Louis Vuitton places because there is nobody there. We can't get mad at kids for showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning with 5 or 6 cars deep down the street from your house, just doing God knows what. Because from what I recall, I'm being told, nothing good happens after 11 o'clock at night. Between 11 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, when people are going to go to work, if you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s, and you're not working and you're out and about, are you really up to really all innocent things, or are you trying to go from point A to point B's house? Are you trying to get into some shit that you're not supposed to? What are you really trying to do? Let's think about that, right? So then the other parenting style is mindful parenting, focuses on being present and aware, promoting emotional intelligence and strong parent-child connections. That's the sweet spot. How do we accomplish that? Mindful parenting and being present and aware. That's engagement. That's taking the moment in time to really speak and talk with your children about their day. That is taking interest in what they do. Whether it's monotonous, whether it's boring or silly to you, to them, it's the greatest thing ever on the planet. Why do you think little kids get so excited when they bring a piece of paper or a drawing when they're going to TK, when they're going to kindergarten? Why are they so excited to show you what they did, what they accomplished? Because they want engagement. They want somebody to really take the moment in time to really validate that the effort that they're putting into whatever it is that they're doing, it's prompting a positive response from you. So it's releasing that chemical within them that they'll be like, oh, this makes me feel great because it makes them feel great. They're reacting positive, so I'm going to do that more because I'm getting all this like love because I'm bringing good stuff to the house. You know what I'm saying? So be weary of that. And I know a lot of us, when we do have children, and this goes for grandparents as well, because a lot of the times, I'll even say this right now, this generation right now that we are in, you see more grandparents raising them babies than the actual parents themselves. And that's whether it's because the parents are irresponsible or they're working or out there hustling and they can't afford daycare, whatever that is. But those children need some sort of engagement and validity of what they're doing. So if you're a grandparent, don't dismiss them. And I know a lot of grandparents are like, I'm tired. I've done this shit already. My kid's already in their 20s. Well, if you are there as a support system for your child right now when they're in their 20s, God bless you. Because not many people have that. There's a lot of folks out there that are raising their kids on their own via daycare or Googling stuff because they were never told how to do something. You know, it's something as silly as teaching your son or your daughters how to properly wash themselves when they're taking a shower. Yeah. Hygiene. Put on deodorant. If you stink, wash up, take a shower. You be rolling it on in dirt. Change them socks. Clean your pants. Throw away the underwear. You know what I mean? Don't put it back. Don't put it in the washer. Take that away. You had an accident? Put that in a separate basket. Now, I'm speaking from experience because I have a young child. And he has accidents from time to time because we are potty training still. But he's starting to understand that. He's starting to understand the concept like, oh shit, I got to wash up because other than that, I will be stinky. Yeah. And you're not going to get into the damn bed with us and go to sleep and go night-night because you need to wash up, sir, and you smell. And this goes the same thing even with my adult kids. You know, you've been out all day. My daughter does competitive dance. My other one does soccer, comp soccer that I mentioned before. She's out there running around, and it's been over a 90-plus degree heat out there. You think I'm going to let that child go to bed in their own nice, clean sheets? All dirty and grimy? Hell no. You got to teach them hygiene and navigate that. Mindful parenting. Positive parenting. This one is a slippery slope. Emphasizes encouragement and positive reinforcement over punishment. Nurturing a child's self-esteem. Yes and no. On this one, I'm going to be 50-50, and you guys can agree or disagree to this one in particular. Emphasizes encouragement and positive reinforcement. Yes, over punishment. Yes. I'll give you an example. Ah, damn, I broke this. Dad, check it out. You can react one or two ways. What were you doing? Pick it up, clean it up, and get over it. Or two, lose your flipping mind because something's broken and now it's pulling you from doing whatever the hell you were doing. And now you got to stop that if you were making dinner and go clean that up. Or when a child is just honestly not putting in the effort, giving them positive enforcement. Yes, nurturing a child's self-esteem, that is always key. However, you do got to manage a time and a place when you have to walk away and let them figure it out. Okay? Let them figure it out. I don't know how many times my children and some grandparents, or some of you out there listening, are guilty of this. When the little kids are running around and they know they're not supposed to because they can barely walk, they trip and fall on themselves and they immediately scrape their knee and start crying. There's two types of parents that I've noticed when this happens. Number one, screams and yells hysterically, running towards their kids saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what happened? There's the other parent that says, everybody pause. I want to see what they do first. Am I going to support you after you've already shown me that you're willing to get up on your own and try to figure it off and move on and manage your own emotions? Or am I going to be there immediately overreacting and never really giving you an opportunity for you to wrap your head around what just happened? Because I'll tell you what, if you're constantly the parent that runs to those kids when they fall on themselves, and unless they're bleeding and broken, obviously those are given, right? Those are common sense ones that shit. Obviously, if a kid broken is bleeding, obviously there's a problem. Or if there's a bone sticking out, or if they sprained themselves, you as a parent know how serious some of these falls are. We're not silly. We're not blind. But if we are constantly coddling the kids when they fall or trip over themselves, that's the human being that you are creating. So don't get mad when this child goes to school and they trip over themselves at school and they're looking for somebody to support them. Like what happened? Somebody please look at me while I'm crying and about to have a meltdown. Oftentimes you'll notice that these kids, if you fucking ignore them, they won't react because it wasn't that egregious. It wasn't that bad. But because they see a grandparent, mama or papa, and they fall and trip on themselves, they immediately look for that person that's going to coddle them and do that. And that's great because that's emotional support. They have that. But what are you building? You have to allow that child to navigate their own emotion and figure out on their own, because you're not going to be there 24/7. You know, like for example, what just happened in our family. Nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. That's why today is called the present. You guys know that saying, right? Tomorrow is not promised. It's not. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. By the grace of God and the Almighty, I hope that I am. But I don't know that. We don't know that. You listening don't know that. So you have to prepare and get these kids ready and emotionally balanced and adept to know how to navigate these things. And this is what the parenting aspect of it is. And do not allow social media to raise your damn child. By you just giving them a laptop or giving them a phone just because you are not wanting to engage with that child, you're making that choice to allow that little screen that you're looking at right now or listening to dictate to your child how they should behave. So don't get mad when that happens. Don't get upset. Don't get upset at all. Because honestly, you're allowing that. What we allow and what we celebrate. Remember that. The other aspect of it, the other portion of this. Oh, somebody's calling. The other part of this, attachment parenting. Prioritizes strong emotional bonds through practices like co-sleeping and responsive feeding. No, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that at all. That to me, that one right there, that style, if that's the style that you choose, whew, okay, we're definitely going to dive into that one. But yeah, I'm going to leave that one for last. Tech savvy parenting integrates technology and parenting, teaching children responsible digital citizenship and online safety. That's pretty much a given. You give your child software, a computer, something like that, and then you have to be mindful that, hold on one second, let me handle this real quick. All right, everybody, I'm back. So top 10 parenting trends, like I just mentioned. So some of those parenting styles, like I said, I'm completely in disagreement with. And that last one, the co-sleeping one, that one really can be a little bit squirrely, because at some point you're going to have to set limits and boundaries of what you are allowing your child to do. And the co-sleeping one, I understand that some kids just require and they want that, but we have to be wary of our own space as well. Because at the end of the day, parents, we also do need our own mental health, and we have to do our own mental assessment. And if we ourselves are not ready or capable or perfectly balanced in order to do that, then it's going to be a very, very difficult thing. And that goes into something real quick that, because as you're noticing, a lot of the trends are a little bit kind of, not controversial, but I guess they're very much anti what we grew up with. And shit, sometimes I think that, damn, maybe the way that I was raised was diabolical and shit. I guess fucking too old school and this and this and that, but I don't think so. I think that we are at a point that there is no balance out there. You either extreme one way. If you're extreme one way, you're extreme the other. If you disagree with one, you disagree with the other. And that shit has got to stop, because that is not what it is. That is not real life. You're not going to agree with everything that somebody's going to say. You're not going to disagree with everything that somebody's going to say. You're going to have to find a balance and compromise, right? That's just the way it is. But that's the parenting styles, or some of them that kind of stood out to me. Now, which one are you? So look within and see if it makes sense for you to be one way or the other. But in my advice, my personal advice, and maybe you have some tips yourself of what works. I'll start there. Do what works. A book and stats and an article can only guide you and give you a sort of direction of a style that maybe you want to trend it to. But the thing is like, look, being a parent did not come up with a damn handbook. Navigating social media, we are the first generation that encountered social media. Oh, you guys forget that. Some people watching never saw social media growing up until already later in life. The teens these days, that's all they know. So it's very difficult for us to relate to them when they can't relate to us, not knowing that there wasn't a social media, that there was a payphone you had to go get. There were phone cards you had to purchase if you wanted to talk to somebody. You did actually have to go to your friend's house in a bike or walk over. You actually had to try and socialize. And that shit was tough on everybody, because not every kid, even these days, are going to be that way. Some of them are introverted, and that's okay. Some of them are extroverted. Some of them have ADHD. Some of them are on the spectrum. Some of which, a lot of this stuff when we were growing up, none of this stuff had a label. You were either that kid who was very social or that kid who was very antisocial. And you had the ones in the middle that just kind of flew under the radar and hoped that they didn't get picked on, or that they hoped they didn't get selected to answer a question. That's just the way it was for us. It doesn't make it okay, but that's the way we grew up. But the new style of parenting, I feel, is getting a little bit too woke, in my opinion. Yes, I said it, too woke. We have to be very mindful of that too, man. I mean, honestly, like, I'm all for kids being open and free range and letting them figure out on their own and this and that. But at some point, you as a parent have to set boundaries and standards. Set limitations on that, because having them free range, they're going to be pushing everybody's boundaries. Shit, they can push your boundaries all you want, but don't push my kids' boundaries. Don't push the teachers that go to school. And if you're not okay with teaching that style, then it's okay for you to parent and teach your kids at home. Have him be a stay-at-home kid. That's completely okay. But we have to do a better job as society, and as I'm noticing now, the main thing, and this is the driving point of this podcast, is guys, we have to engage with these kids. We cannot just expect us to have a bomb-ass job, make $250K a year or more or that, have the kids college fund, their trust from their grandparents, have them set up for life to the point that they never have to worry about anything. We can't just step back and walk away and hope that, oh man, I did my best. I provided all the education that they need. No, F that. Right now, we need to be more involved in their shit than anything, because social media is having a tremendous impact on these children and young 20-year-olds that is ridiculous. You know, and I hate touching on this subject because I said I didn't want to talk about it to myself. And I have my own opinion, and it's going to trigger some folks. So be mindful. Some of this shit's going to trigger you. So if you don't like it, put pause and move on, or just sit there and listen. Okay. Just listen. Okay. I'm not saying that my point and perspective is correct. I'm not saying that what's going to come out of my mouth right now, you're going to agree with. So be mindful of that. If you made it to this point, you're willing to listen. So just pause, take a deep breath, and listen. The Kirk assassination that just happened, the incident where the gentleman was unalived in Utah. And if you don't know who that is or what happened, number one, I don't know if you follow social media, if you don't follow me at all, or if you don't even know who he is. So Mr. Kirk was a public speaker, podcaster, influencer, and a very big supporter of a very particular party. See, I'm navigating this because I want to be mindful of you too, because you're not going to agree with what I'm going to say. And a lot of the comments that he said throughout his career, you can say that they were very directed towards the far right and very progressive. Some of the comments that he said were, I guess you could say, anti-liberal, anti-left. Again, there's no middle, right? Either you're there or you're not. And because of what he spoke about frequently, it prompted a young individual so upset, or individuals so upset, that they decided to take matters into their own hands. And they planned this whole situation, and it ended how it ended, and the man lost his life. And in my mind, as upset I am with someone, as angry I might be, and I'm going to say it, with our current administration and president, and this can go whoever it is. It could be Obama, Trump, Clinton, Bush, I don't care who it is. Just your own personal feelings and your own opinions of those individuals might not necessarily jive with you, but for me to take matters into my own hands and get a pistol and a gun, plot this, plot that, and try to take a man's life, I have a very difficult time accepting that and being okay with that. Very difficult time. And while I know some of the comments and stuff that he has said about minorities, about the LGBTQ community, and about pro-life, pro-choice, and that big controversial topic, which hell no, I'm not diving into that shit. I'm not going into it. So no, you better miss me with that. I won't go into that shit. I'm not going to go into the weeds. I just find it very difficult for me to go ahead and plan this stuff out. And I'm not saying that what the guy did was wrong, because in his mind, he believes it was right. So it's hard for me to go ahead and get into the dude's head and what makes sense. I can scrutinize and criticize all I want. And in my opinion, I think this could have been handled differently. Some folks that I know, including some friends of mine, feel that it was warranted and it was because of the venom that he was spewing. It resulted in this type of reaction from folks. Some people are saying, "Oh, I'm the left, and this is stuff that it's been going on." I mean, but at the end of the day, what changes apart from somebody losing their life? What's changing by us reacting this way? We're spinning our wheels and killing one another, whether it's the left or the right or the one in the middle. And at the end of the day, nothing fucking changes because we're not following the trend. Nothing changes. And it's really frustrating for me to see this because I see that it happens even in inner cities, man. I mean, nothing changes within inner cities because we're too busy fighting one another. We're too busy, into doing dumb shit that we just forget to look at the bigger picture and try to make policy changes that actually make sense. Instead, when it's time to vote, when it's time to possibly make a difference, we choose to just not do shit because we disagree and thinking it's not going to matter. You would be surprised. You would be amazed. For example, I'll use an analogy of a bee. If you see one bee floating around, yeah, it's going to spook you and she's going to catch your attention, but you're going to flick it away. As soon as it comes down, you're going to smack it. But if you get a fucking swarm of bees trying to do something, then you will react and you will run and you will do some shit. We are one of a billion that can make a difference, but we choose not to because we are so caught up in our own stuff, in our own bubble, that we don't think it affects us until it does. And this goes to parenting. You don't think it's going to affect you. I think it does. You don't think that parent that called the FBI on his own son, that turned him in, because that's how the gentleman was turned in. His own father turned him in. You don't think that gentleman had his son all set up to have a great life? IRAs, probably, who knows? But based on what has come out from the gentleman, the gentleman who committed this crime, he had a decent upbringing, not perfect. But at what point do the parents just walk away and let the child just kind of, I don't know, teach himself? Or get immersed into the social media platforms and his own beliefs and his friends thinking one way, and the influence has come about and something that triggered him so much that he decided to do this. But this is just one individual on one side of the party. There is multiple on both sides. There's extremists on every side. But some of those extremists could be completely avoided by having conversations with this kid at such a young age. And you'd be amazed. We cannot just ignore, and by simply working, oh shit, I'm working, I'm paying all the bills, they're getting fed every day, oh, I'm doing my job. No, and it takes more than that. If we want to be great parents, if we want to raise really good citizens and really good human beings, engage. Because then they will engage. And even all this fucking engaging is going to annoy the shit out of them, trust me, eventually one of the things that you said will trigger them and will be like that for them. And they'll be like, damn, my parents did have a point. But right now I'm seeing that that's not the trend. We can't celebrate somebody losing their life because that man at the end of the day was a father. Say what you want. Those kids are now without a dad. Yes, he's famous for making a comment that for one mass murder or something like that, it's collateral damage for the right to the Second Amendment. Okay, I get you. All right, good argument. How do you think his kids feel about that comment? How do you think the victims of mass shooters and all that stuff, how do you think they feel about all that? I'm sure they disagree with it. I'm sure they have their own different opinions now. That's for sure. But that's just the way it is now. It's just upsetting. And then, like, For example, one of my friends was really upset and sent me a message. Hey, man, how can you be commenting saying, say what you say about the guy, but at the end of the day, somebody lost their life? Yeah, they did. Somebody did lose their life. It was tragic, but I can go back and think about, Malcolm X. I can think about, Martin Luther King and a lot of civil rights activists that have fought hard for our right, including my own, to be on this podcast and recording this video to you. But all their lives are tragic. But it doesn't help any side. Us putting bodies on the ground doesn't help shit. It doesn't help anything. We're just giving ammo to the extremists on opposite side and validating their argument. And they're going to continue spewing their own venom in your direction because you are receptive to listening to it. And you're going to make your own assessments and your own judgment, and you're going to act out the way you want to act out. When in reality, we should have much more emotional intelligence and navigate through what's bullshit and navigate through what is being influenced on me and what's being pushed on me and try to make my own narrative. We should all build our own narrative and not dictate it to us. And I'm sick and tired of all these narratives being dictated to these children via social media platforms of what's right and what's wrong. And that's where parenting needs to be right now more than ever. It needs to be more involved and not dismissive and ignore that these kids are listening to this shit via TikTok, Reels, Shorts, whatever it is. They are recording devices. And if we're not filtering the nonsense and bullshit that they're seeing, then we're failing. So if you have an opportunity or time today, like I always challenge all my viewers and listeners, I challenge you to please take the moment to engage with your child, regardless of their age. Validate them, empower them, but at the same time, set expectations and boundaries that they should watch social media. Yes, that's okay. I'm not saying that they won't. But you have to start putting in that seed in their mind of what's not okay. But don't download hate or your own narrative. Download that there is a chance for them to have a great future. Because after we are gone, after we are long gone and buried, and part of this earth and soil, including myself, it's their generation that's going to continue on and so forth and so forth. So we are cultivating, we are planting seeds of our future. What are we going to do? Are we going to plant growth, development, and emotional intelligence? Or are we planting hate, divisiveness, stereotypes, narcissism, ego, selfishness, and that we need social media to validate who we are as individuals? What are we doing? So think about that. I know today's episode was a little somber. I wanted to change a little bit of the topics just because the last one was kind of goofy, and on TikTok, I've been making a fool of myself because there is a different side of me, y'all. Like I mentioned this before. Yes, I'm all jokes aside, but I am a parent. I'm very passionate about that aspect of it and how we raise our children. Because I see too much of it that's being ignored. And this week, it was just a shit show with emotions for me personally and my family. And I know some of you out there are probably going through some stuff yourself, and you're using this forum to kind of escape a little bit. And I hope that these 45 minutes that you've spent time with me was able to help you that. And if I sparked any sort of change within you or a change in thought process, then I did my job, because I'm sure your child will appreciate it as well. So with that being said, God bless you. God bless your families. Thank you as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.